Alright, so welcome to today's video. Today's video is about why does my brother printer print so poorly? And you can see this customer's brought us this printer and the print quality is absolutely horrendous. Why does my brother print with wrinkly stripes and just looks absolutely dreadful? Well, it all comes down to the ink that you choose to use in your printer. When you buy your brother printer, brand new at the shops, the current generation, not the previous generation, the brother have changed the style of ink that they use in their printers. And the ink that gets used is completely different to what was being used in the printers for the previous 15 years. So here we have a used brother print cartridge. If we have a look at the yellow is the one that gives us the clear indication that something has changed. And the problem is the manufacturers of printer cartridges haven't realized that everything has changed, and they're still pushing out non-genuine cartridges that don't work properly as a result, because they're still filling it with the old ink. So if we have a look at this genuine cartridge, if I can get it into focus, you'll see the ink is milky white. Sorry, milky yellow. Get that into focus. And this is how the ink has changed. So if we go to this customer's machine and the inks that they're using in it, let's have a look. Okay, so this is, of course, we're based in Australia. There's lots of different non-genuine cartridge manufacturers, all making their own version of these cartridges. In our case, it's the LC 3319s for this machine. Now I've got a collection of cartridges here to show you, and there's two cartridges here on this deck that will work perfectly in this printer. So we've got the genuine cartridge. Quite obviously that will work perfectly in the printer, but for a lot of people these cartridges are way too expensive, so they go to using non-genuines. The biggest seller of brother printers in Australia sells genuine ink. It sells brother printers, but it also sells non-genuine ink. This is the variety of non-genuine that big cartridge seller sells. If we have a look at the ink, you can see it looks absolutely nothing like the genuine ink. Absolutely nothing like it. If we put them side by side, the two inks are completely and utterly different. If we compare this to the ink cartridge that you get from me, you can buy my cartridges on my website. We ship them Australia-wide for free. If we compare my ink to the genuine ink, it's pretty much almost identical. If we compare my cartridge to another cartridge from a competitor that sells ink, well, those inks look exactly the same, you might say. Yes, they do look exactly the same. The only difference is, and here's the killer, I buy from the same Chinese manufacturer that my competitor buys from. The difference is I'm a printer technician. I've been fixing printers for over 30 years. And I can tell when something's up. I asked this manufacturer, can you build me a few thousand of these cartridges using a particular type of ink? And they said no worries. They still, on the other hand, for my competitor, push out these cartridges. You can tell something's up with the ink. It's not the same. So, where are we at? This applies to all. The yellow is the obvious one. It's quite easily to see the comparison. If you put one of these cartridges in your printer, it will damage your printer instantly the moment the ink gets pumped through the ink lines, up, around, and into the head. One of these inks will kind of work. One of these inks will definitely work, and another one of these inks will definitely work. That goes for all the colours. So we've got the red, the blue, and the black. All of them. Okay. So you can see here the red's not milky red, it's kind of an opaque red. We compare that red to my cartridges that I supply. Completely different ink, completely different results inside the printer. Alright, so you've put some bad ink in your printer and now your printer is printing like that. What do you do? The first thing you do is you get all of the ink out of the printer. All the crap ink. We go and we open the cover of the printer up. We remove this plastic cover. We remove this plastic cover. This gives us access to the inks. So these are the ink lines. The ink makes its way from here all the way up, around to these ink lines. Here you can see these ink lines are completely and utterly jammed full of crap quality ink. It's no surprise this printer is printing as poorly as it is. What you need to do is you need to get yourself a damp chucks. Not wet, just damp. The first thing we are going to do is over here on the left side. This is where the waste ink goes. We need to get in here with our damp chucks and we need to clean these ink waste guides until they're spotlessly clean. You may have to rinse out your chucks multiple times. So what happens is when the ink goes through its cleaning process over here, it does a pumping action where it sucks ink through. It does a wiping action on the bottom of the head to scrape any impurities from the bottom of the head, and then it dumps a large chunk of the ink that you put into the printer down this waterfall type of scenario, and that guides the waste ink down to a sponge which is underneath that collects all the waste ink. So when your printer comes up eventually after several years saying service due, change waste unit, it's the sponge down under here that has to be changed. And that's It's a whole new video for another day. We'll go into that later. So we've cleaned this section off with a damp chucks. What you next have to do is, with the cover open, hold down the red X. That will enable the print head to come from the purge cleaning assembly here. This is the unit that sucks on the bottom of the head and sucks ink out. Okay, so we then want to take our chucks and we want to clean this section off in here. Just clean the whole area out carefully. You want to make sure that the purging unit here is all nice and clean. And spotless. And more importantly, you want to make sure there's no hairs, animal hairs, human hairs, fibers from carpets stuck in this section as well. If you do find that you've got little bits of fibers stuck in here, get in there with a vacuum cleaner and carefully suck and vacuum those fibers out. Okay, so the next step is, now that you have everything spotlessly clean, this printer in itself, which is broken, has done very little work. It's simply a case of the inks that this customer has chosen to buy and use has led to this problem. Next step, we're going to load the printer up with some good quality ink. That's a crap one. That's a good one. Incidentally, if you were to do this repair using genuine ink, it would cost you an absolute bomb, and if you were getting a printer technician to try and do this, it would not be economically feasible. It would be cheaper for you to buy a new printer. Considering this printer, I think, is only... I'm going to kill that bird. Okay. Stick that ink in. Alright, so we've got a full load of inks there. Okay, so we've got the ink in, and we now need to get that ink through to the print head. So what we have to do is we have to push on the ink line. We need to go down to print head cleaning. We need to choose all. We need to choose strongest, and then we need to start. Printer will then start doing its cleaning action, go through its routine, and I should be able to show you the ink flowing. So right there you saw the ink started to move through. So the machine right now is running a pump on the purging unit underneath, and the ink is starting to come through. As yet you will see that there's no ink in the cap area that caps the head off. It means the machine is still sucking air as the heads have become quite filled full of air as well. Okay, we've got some colour coming through there. So the ink that's in that head section there now will be all the bad ink. So now it's doing the cleaning action on the black head. You saw the black ink start to flow there. In this printer, the colour and the black cartridges are treated separately. The yellow, magenta and blue are pumped together and cleaned together, and the black is pumped and cleaned by itself. Alright, so the machine's finished doing the cleaning action. It's asking us, do we want to do a test print? We're going to say no in this case because we know that ink is still in there. We're going to go back, we're going to do print head cleaning, we're going to do all, we're going to do the strongest clean, and we're going to do that again. If we have a look at that ink, and there we go, you can see the good ink has come through. I can tell straight away just by looking at it the difference between my ink and this utter garbage ink. It hasn't come out on the nozzles yet. That's the kind of colour you need to see in your lines. And of course you will see that with genuine ink as well. Now there are reservoirs in the ink in the print head. Up here you can see the red reservoir. That red reservoir will still be filled full of the bad ink. We'll probably have to do this clean once more after this, just to empty those wells up there and to get the good ink at the head. Have a look, we can see we have some ink coming through. It's still got the bad ink coming through. So in the process of doing this repair for this customer, we may use up one set of yellow, red and blue inks. We definitely won't use up a set of one black, because the black cartridge is so huge. We'll probably use about a quarter of the ink out of the large black cartridge to sort this problem out for the customer. Have a look at that. Yep, so that's still bad ink coming through. We go over here to the machine spraying off the waste ink. So we can see there we have got yellow kind of coming through. Red and blue are definitely not right. And of course we have no black, because the black is the wrong ink completely. So we go back over to the cleaning again. So it's cleaned some black off there. You can see there's black in the purge. Try not to lose a finger while we're at it. We go back over. See, there's a tiny amount of black being sprayed off there, combined with the yellow. So it's yellow and black together, and blue and red together. So it wants to do a check. We're not going to do a check because we know it's going to be bad. So we go back and we do print head cleaning again, all, and the strongest clean. Now we may have to do this 5 or 6, maybe even 10 times over. If it's a relatively brand new machine, you've made this mistake, you've used up the first set of cartridges and then started using this, there's a high probability that you'll be able to fix the printer. If you've used multiples of these, then the printer may be simply a complete throwaway, as it's just not economically viable to repair it. By the time you change the inks, change the heads, you're looking at the cost of just going down to the store and buying a new printer anyway. So we'll keep at it, and I'll just pause the video and come back in a minute. Alright, so on this cleaning run you can see the black has started to change. We go over here, we should probably start seeing some black coming through now. Nope, still doing the colour run. If you have a look at the ink wells, you can see the red ink is now filled up with good quality red ink. See, there's some black coming through there on the yellow now. And we'll just keep plugging away and we'll test it in a minute. Alright, so now we've done that 3 times. We're going to this time do a test print and see what comes out. Let's have a look. Alright, and that looks pretty good to me. perfect on the black, perfect on the yellow, blue and red is all perfect. We compare that to what we began with. So, buyer beware. When you buy your inks. So if you head over to my website, fixitfastelectronics.com, you can buy good quality non-genuine ink for much cheaper than the genuine ink. It comes with free postage for Australia and New Zealand. The rest of the world, I'm working on that at the moment. If you're in the local Brisbane or Gold Coast area and you have done this to your printer and damaged it, you can give me a ring. I will come out and fix the printer on site for you, or if business is really busy, we will take the printer away, fix it and return it. Yep, so that's today's video. This customer's had a good outcome. They don't have to go buy a new printer. And if you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments below. If this has helped you out and you're feeling generous, you can buy me a beer or a coffee with the link there in the description. And yeah, any questions, just email me and I'll get back to you. Thanks.